While the world is not a vale of tears, there are times when it seems more so than others. As strong as we may be, there are times we need a special power, the potent strength of the divine feminine. There is something deeply mythic about women who rise in the face of darkness, who fight not just literal monsters but the systems, traumas and demons that have haunted them and their communities for centuries. In every culture, there are stories of women who battle the shadows, priestesses, warriors, witches, nuns. And today, these ancient archetypes are being reborn in pop culture. From goddesses to modern demon slayers like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and the heroines of K-pop demon hunters, young women battling supernatural evil while navigating the chaos of adolescence have become a strikingly popular figure in film and TV. But what makes this mix of eyeliner, demons, and emotional drama so irresistible? Hi everyone, my name is Alona and you're watching Femme Fatale's Heels channel, where we talk about women, film, and women in film. And in this video, I will explore why the image of the female demon hunter continues to resonate with us today, and what it reveals about power, pain, and feminine strength. Also, if you see in this video some weird editing like screenshots instead of clips or stuff like that, just know that it's because of YouTube copyright issues. So I have a Patreon where I upload all the videos in the original editing without the impact of YouTube copyrights. So if you want to support the channel and my work and see the videos in original editing, I will leave a link to Patreon down below. And now let's get back to the video. As always, before diving into examples from film and TV, I want to start with a look at women who have battled dark forces in global mythology and culture. The figure of a woman confronting demonic or supernatural powers appears in some form across nearly every culture around the world. So here I will give a short overview, from Durga slaying demons in ancient India to saintly dragon slayers in medieval Europe. And since many of you watching come from different countries and cultural backgrounds, I want to acknowledge that my interpretation might not be perfect. If I have misunderstood or misinterpreted any part of these stories, please feel free to correct me in the comments, or even better, share examples from your own culture, because it's important for me to approach this topic with respect, so I will be very grateful for your feedback. In Hindu mythology, Durga is a warrior goddess, born to defeat the buffalo demon Mahishasura. She is often shown with multiple arms, each holding a divine weapon, a literal embodiment of concentrated female power. The battle between goddess Durga and Mahishasura isn't just a literal fight between a woman and a monster. Durga embodies cosmic energy that can defeat what male gods cannot. She represents balance, protection, and righteous anger, and this anger is sacred and liberating, not destructive. By the way, we have a separate video on female rage in films, so check that one out too. Mahishasura, on the other hand, can be read as a symbol of abuse of power. He was granted a boon that no man or god could defeat him. This arrogance turned him into a tyrant. So even from my brief description, it can be seen that the image of Durga fighting Mahishasura is not just about the epic battle moment. It can be read in many ways, like cosmic order fighting with chaos, or sacred feminine with patriarchal arrogance. Again, this is a more modern take, so if you can contribute to the discussion in the comments, I will be very grateful. Another fierce goddess from Indian mythology is Kali, represents the unleashed force of female rage. She dances on the corpses of demons, blood on her tongue, unafraid of her own ferocity. This raw, relentless feminine fury continues to fuel stories of women standing strong against darkness. In Japanese mythology, the goddess Izanami no Mikoto was originally a deity of creation, but after her death, she descended into the underworld, becoming associated with death and sometimes with demons. Later folklore reimagines her as returning from the underworld to punish or control demonic forces. In one modern retelling, Izanami speaks to her husband, Izanagi, who abandoned her her after she lost her beauty in death. I hate you. You abandoned me when I needed you the most by my side, rejected me because I lost my beauty, left me in hell with demons and venomous creatures, for me to cry for days and nights, for countless years, being considered a demon by humans. I hate you, but I love you. She is a spiritual mother of vengeance, and her mythic arc is reflected in countless anime or horror films where ghostly women cross between worlds to destroy evil. Greek mythology offers us the more morally complex figure of Medea. Though often cast as the villain, she also fought magical creatures and used dark knowledge to protect herself. Medea was not just a tragic woman but also a sorceress, trained in herbs, spells, and the arts of Hecate. This duality, a mother capable of human grief and vengeance, yet also a witch with powers beyond moral limits, made her both fascinating and terrifying to the Greeks. She embodies the dual image of the woman who is both feared and fearsome, a trope still central to many demon-hunting heroines today. Similarly, the Maidens were women who followed Dionysus and, in moments of wild excitement, were said to tear apart animals or enemies, showing a fierce and powerful side of feminine energy. Korean folk traditions feature the mudang, female shamans who performed rituals to expel harmful spirits. These women weren't warriors in the physical sense, but more in a spiritual one. We can see the impact of this story in female characters, for example, in Korean horror or in fantasy genres. And I think it's fair to say that this cultural image had a great impact on K-pop demon hunters, which I will talk about later. Medieval Europe too offers saintly women who confronted the devil quite literally. Saint Margaret of Antioch famously slayed or escaped a dragon representing Satan. In Christian culture, demons and dragons were not just monsters, but symbols of sin and the chaotic threat of the devil himself. To show a woman conquering such force was a striking reversal of expectations. The weaker sex became a vessel of divine strength. These mythic women didn't just face monsters, they become symbols of the struggle between chaos and order, violence and justice, the sacred and the profane. They could be saintly, terrifying, youthful or immortal, but what unites them all is that it's from this ancient lineage that our modern demon-hunting heroines are born. So in this part of the video, I want to focus on 3 cinematic projects that depict the Demon Slayer woman archetype: Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Warrior Nun, and K-pop Demon Hunters. My main focus here will be to analyze how these works reflect mythological images of female warriors, and how they adapt those archetypes to fit modern themes and cultural trends. So I will start with arguably the most known female slayer of her era, Buffy.
In every generation there is a chosen one. She alone will stand against the vampires, the demons, and the forces of darkness. She is the Slayer.
The TV series Buffy the Vampire Slayer aired from 1997 to 2003 and has a total of 7 seasons. This means I won't be able to cover every season in detail, and since Buffy is literally a cultural phenomenon with entire university courses dedicated to the show, I don't think I really stand a chance of offering a deeper dive than the hardcore fans. Instead, I want to focus on certain aspects and tropes in the series that reflect the figure of the female demon slayer and perhaps add some new perspectives on it. I also want to acknowledge that I'm fully aware of the abuse allegations against Joss Whedon, the creator of the show. I'm not ignoring this aspect. In fact, I'm currently working on a separate video about the broader question of what to do with so-called good art made by problematic or harmful people. people. I will talk more about that there, but for now I will keep the focus on Buffy itself. If I were to summarize Buffy briefly, it's the story of a teenage girl choosing to fight vampires, demons, and the forces of darkness, all while trying to balance high school, friendship, love, and her own sense of identity. In the Buffy universe, there's a rule that only one Slayer is active at a time. When a Slayer dies, her power is passed on to the next chosen girl, a kind of mystical succession that ensures there's always one Slayer to fight the forces of darkness. The Slayers are exclusively female, which ties into the show's focus on feminine power. There are occasionally exceptions or temporary overlaps in special circumstances, but generally the Slayer line is strictly one girl at a time, which presents a unique feminist perspective for a show of that time. Buffy embodies the trope of the chosen one, an ordinary girl who becomes extraordinary and is tasked with protecting the world from vampires and demons. One of the elements that made the series so popular at the time was its portrayal of a female protagonist who didn't fit the limiting stereotypes of women on screen. She was active, brave, and full of character, while also wearing many outfits that later became iconic. In this way, Buffy combined femininity with traits often associated with male characters, making her a groundbreaking figure for her era. Girly as power play is perhaps one of the show's most quietly radical moves. Buffy arrived on our screens in the middle of the latter days of the 1990s, in which feminism had become a forgotten dirty word. Female empowerment, as it had been in the 80s, was still pretty much tied to the idea of slotting into a male template. Aggressions and strength in business or demon fighting meant adopting a male pattern of behavior. The idea of female-rooted power, as a vampire slayers are, was therefore immersively refreshing and appealing, and the show's initial stunt that its heroine should look as much like the hot victim of a horror movies as possible actually became a fundamental building block of its feminist credentials, writes Mary Claire Chapet in her article Why the Uniquely Radical Feminism of Buffy the Vampire Slayer Was So Revolutionary. The system of Slayers is particularly interesting to me. Throughout the show, Buffy encounters a few other female characters who are also Slayers at one point or another. For example, Kendra Young is called as a Slayer after Buffy briefly dies. Unfortunately, she appears on the show only a few times, which is why many viewers, myself included, feel that she was done dirty. Kendra is a compelling, awesome character. She possesses more knowledge about slaying than Buffy, received harsh training with her Watcher, and fully embraced her abilities as a natural part of herself. This contrasts with Buffy, who carried the Slayer role as a heavy burden for much of her life.
You always do that.
Do what?
You talk about slaying like it's a job. It's not. It's who you are.
A large part of Kendra's wasted potential on the show was linked to her being black. The first Slayer was a black woman who was enslaved by the first Watcher's Council, who moved around creeping and skittering like a creature. She embodied basic primitivism. Kendra came from Jamaica, which, given all the places she could have come from, Jamaica in this case presents a superficial understanding of blackness. Whedon appealed to a capitalist and consumerist understanding of blackness. The Slayer came from a country that is readily identifiable to white Americans, a country where blackness is palatable and easily accessible as much as it is exoticized. I can't even say it's an accomplishment that most of the non-potential Slayers were black, because it shows a lack of creativity and inability to imagine Slayers beyond a racist duality, wrote the columnist D.V. McKinney. If you want to hear more thoughts on this topic, I recommend to check Princess Week's video on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I will leave the link down below. In the same article, McKinney also mentions an Asian Slayer. When Slayers were weren't bluntly exoticized like Kendra or the one Asian Slayer who shows up in surprise China of all places. They were reduced to gross stereotypes. Xin Rong was a Slayer active in China in 190s, but again her screen time was very limited as much as her depiction. Her brief appearance highlights her discipline, courage, and tragic humanity. She dies in the line of duty, showing that even the most capable Slayers can fall due to unforeseen circumstances. However, as McKinney notes, her image was still very much exoticized. Another Slayer we see on the show is Faith, who appears as rebellious counterpart to Buffy. Unlike Buffy, Faith embraces a darker, more impulsive approach to fighting evil, often acting independently and sometimes dangerously. She struggles with authority and moral boundaries, which leads her down a path of conflict and redemption. Faith's dynamic with Buffy also hints at a sapphic storyline, with moments of tension, attraction, and intimacy that fans have long shipped. Their relationship adds another layer to Faith's character and further emphasizes the complexity of the Slayer lineage, showing that the connection between Slayers can be as intense and unpredictable as battles that they fight. By the end of the series, Buffy begins training the potential group of Slayers, a development that marks a significant shift in the story. For most of the show, the Slayer line has been portrayed as solitary, one girl carrying the burden of protecting the world. Buffy's decision to train multiple Slayers transforms this dynamic, showing that the role of protector is not limited to a single chosen one. This moment is important for several reasons. First, it challenges the idea of isolation in female heroism. Power and responsibility can be shared, and women can support each other rather than facing evil alone. Secondly, it expands the narrative diversity of the series, allowing different girls with different personalities, backgrounds, and approaches to step into the Slayer role, which I hope will be more explored in the reboot of Buffy that should come out in 2026. Of course, from all Slayers, Buffy is the most compelling character, which makes sense. Still, I would have loved to see more of the other women in this role, portrayed with depth and grace, rather as exoticized figures or appearing in just a few episodes. But I think this idea of showing many women embracing a warrior role has already been handled well by the show Warrior Nun. If you're enjoying this video, I'm asking you to give it a like and leave a comment, because YouTube likes very much when people engage with content while watching it. I will be very grateful. Based on a comic book series created by Ben Dunn in 1994, the series follows Alva Silva, a young woman who wakes up in a morgue with a mysterious artifact granting her superhuman powers. She joins the Order of the Cruciform Sword, a secret group of warrior nuns tasked with battling demons on Earth. The show uses Christianity as basis for its mythology, set within a modern context. In my opinion, this is a very interesting choice, considering that many religions, Christianity included, have historically held hostile or restrictive attitudes towards women. Male characters in the show are still very present, often holding positions of leadership such as priests or popes. However, they are frequently portrayed as power-hungry or morally corrupt, which highlights the contrast with the non-warriors, who are all women and mostly of whom are sincerely dedicated to protecting humanity. The show features a wide variety of female characters, each with distinct personalities, backgrounds, and paths as a warrior nuns. Alva Silva, the protagonist, wakes up in a morgue with no memory and discovers a mysterious artifact that grants her superhuman powers. Like Buffy, she resembles the Chosen One trope, not the one who should become the special warrior, but now has to embrace her new powers and role. Over the series, Alva learns to embrace her abilities, confronts her personal traumas, and grows into a confident leader. Sister Shannon, one of the senior nuns, comes from a background of strict religious training and embodies discipline and loyalty to the order. Her journey explores the tension between obedience and personal morality. Sister Lilith rises from being a promising recruit to a politically corrupt figure, navigating power struggles and showing how ambition and intelligence can shape leadership. Sister Camilla, a newer recruit with a background in humanitarian work. She joins the convent at 15 to serve God, seeking peace and acceptance. Through the series, Camilla evolves from reserved and disciplined warrior to a more emotionally open and assertive individual. Sister Beatrice, known for her quiet strength and strategic mind. Through the series, she evolves from a reserved and disciplined warrior to a more emotionally open person. In addition, the show includes a sapphic storyline between Ava and Beatrice, which is particularly striking in a series that engages heavily with themes of religion and religious institutions. They are all united by the Order of Cruciform Sword, a secret Catholic military organization dedicated to fighting demons and other evil forces. It was founded by Ariala of Cordova, a medieval warrior who, after being gravely wounded, was saved by the angel Adriel, who embedded a sacred artifact called the Halo into her back. The exact artifact grants supernatural abilities, and after this event, Ariala established the Order to train women to fight the forces of darkness. The Order is primarily composed of women, highlighting a strong focus on female agency and heroism. Members dedicate their lives to battling evil, and their training combines both spiritual discipline and physical combat skills. This creates a world where women are not only empowered, but also central to the protection of humanity. The show has many plot lines and characters, but again, I wanted to focus specifically on the women fighting demons aspect. I think it offers a fascinating perspective on women's roles in religion. On one hand, echoing the traditional sacrificial ideal, similar to figures like Saint Margaret from earlier in this video. On the other hand, it expands the role of women beyond the sacrificial lamb, portraying them as active forces of protection, combat, and courage. And this leads us to the last but not least example, K-pop Demon Hunters. At this point, K-pop Demon Hunters has become Netflix's most watched movie of all time, so I'm not even sure it needs a separate introduction. Many authors have already made videos analyzing everything, from the animation style to its depiction of Korean culture, so I wasn't sure if I had anything new to add. Still, with the focus of this video, I will at least give it a try. In short, the plot follows the K-pop girl group Huntrix, Rumi, Mira, and Zoe, who lead double lives as demon hunters. Their mission is to protect humanity by maintaining the Hon Moon, a mystical barrier that seals demons away. The trio discovers that their rival boy band, the Saja Boys, are actually demons in disguise, aiming to weaken the Hon Moon and unleash chaos. The main character of the story is Rumi, whose mother was also part of a music trio tasked with protecting the Hon Moon. The film features memorable sequence showing different trios from various eras, all of whom fought demons. It also ends on a hopeful note, as Huntrix encounters 3 young girls who are hinted to become their successors, continuing the legacy of demon hunting. The theme of women passing down their secret knowledge and combat skills links ancient myths of women fighting evil to modern stories. In all 3 projects, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Warrior Nun, and K-pop Demon Hunters, it shows that female strength is collective and inherited, not just individual. And it also reflects both a continuity of the fight against evil and a more subtle modern commentary. It challenges patriarchal systems, have historically restricted women's roles, highlighting that heroism and leadership can be cultivated collectively. Demons, monsters, and any other dark forces often serve as metaphors for real-world challenges. They can embody societal oppression, personal fears, or systematic injustice, giving the heroines a tangible way to confront what might otherwise be abstract or invisible struggles. By facing these threats, the characters not only prove their physical and magical powers, but also assert moral authority, agency, and resilience. In these types of narratives, we often see a crisis of identity. In K-pop Demon Hunters, this is reflected in Rumi's heritage. She is half demon, which causes her to question her loyalties, methods, and place in the world. Her struggle embodies personal uncertainty and highlights a recurring theme in demon hunting stories: the tension between inherited power, personal choice, and moral responsibility. This tension often also manifests as direct flirtation with evil, or in other words, a romantic relationships between the heroines and demonic or morally ambiguous characters they are supposed to fight. In Buffy, for example, Buffy herself struggles with her feelings for Angel and then later Spike, both vampires, which complicates her moral duties and forces her to navigate love, desire, and danger simultaneously. There was also a powerful moment in Buffy when she had her first romantic encounter with Angel, the vampire she loved, only for his behavior to change drastically the next morning. This scene resonated deeply with many young women who unfortunately may have had similar experiences in real life. And when Buffy sleeps with her ensouled vampire boyfriend, he turns into a different person overnight and rejects her the next morning. In this case, it was because of a gypsy curse that dissouls him. But teenage girls everywhere nodded sagely, sighed, and wished they too could simply stake their first loves through the heart, writes Lucy Mangan in her article about Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Similarly, in K-pop Demon Hunters, Rumi and her interactions with Jinu, who is also a demon, highlights the same push and pull dynamic, where attraction intersects with duty, heritage, and ethical boundaries. These relationships often captivate viewers because they explore the complexity of desire, the moral ambiguity of love, and the challenges of keeping one's identity while confronting forces that are both alluring and dangerous. Another feature I noticed while analyzing these stories is the figure of the older female mentor. In Buffy, this aspect is less visible as her mentors are men, which adds a distinct layer to the series by showing how Buffy learns to assert her views and protect her interests in the face of male authority. But we later can see this very image of an older female mentor embodied by Buffy herself. Both Warrior Nun and K-pop Demon Hunters feature older women who serve as mentors, guiding the protagonists, passing down knowledge, and providing both practical training and moral guidance. In ancient times, women who had seized their monthly flow were believed to hold their life-giving powers within themselves, like the dark moon. They were thought to be creating something powerful with their retained womb blood, pregnant with wisdom instead of new life, valued and honored in their communities. These sage women had skills and powers no younger woman could possess, writes Chris Walter. Since ancient times, people have feared older, especially elderly women, often labeling them as witches or threats, because they did not fit into patriarchal norms, where a woman was expected to exist only in relation to a man. While watching K-pop Demon Hunters, I honestly expected Rumi's aunt, the trio's mentor, to play a bigger role or to learn more about Rumi's mother. Perhaps this is material for a potential sequel or prequel, who knows. I would definitely love to see that explored. But this presence of female mentorship itself emphasizes intergenerational support and highlights the importance of women empowering other women within these narratives. So in conclusion, I can say that there are definitely a number of common tropes in stories about female demon hunters, from the chosen one narrative to romantic relationships with demons. These plots may vary, but they share recurring themes and motives. I think that if you are an anime fan, you could find hundreds of examples where these motives appear, and this is exactly why I decided not to focus on anime here. There would simply be too many series featuring girls fighting demons. That being said, I still think that all the shows and films I mentioned in this video are very different and unique in their own ways, which I see as a positive sign. It shows that certain narratives can survive and evolve from ancient times, yet still feel engaging, fresh, and yes, hella feminist. Thank you for watching this video. Please give it a like, leave a comment. I would love to hear your thoughts on this topic. If you know any other myths of stories of women fighting demons, I would love to read it in the comments. And please subscribe to the channel and see you in the next videos. Bye bye!